Do you know who Steve Jobs is? The following is a brief biography of Steve Jobs. Digital era like today. Of course we are familiar with the name of a figure who was very inspiring in the field of technology, namely Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is the founder of the Apple company, which until now is known as a world-class technology giant. Steve Jobs, born in California, February 24, 1955, had previously been a member of the board of directors of the Walt Disney Company in 2006. Steve Jobs' success in leading the company made him inspire many people. So do not be surprised if throughout his life he was often asked to give motivational seminars, especially among young children. Steve Jobs' success in building an Apple company deserves a thumbs up. His services will always be remembered throughout the ages. Steve Jobs breathed his last on October 5, 2011 because he had cancer. However, his thoughts and motivations will always be a whip for the next generation to achieve success. Steve Jobs was born in San Francisco in 1955, which was later adopted by Paul Jobs and Clara. Paul works in a laser-making company and often teaches Steve Jobs about the world of electronics. Meanwhile, Clara works as an accountant and has taught Steve Jobs to read even before he entered kindergarten. Every time Steve Jobs was asked about his parents, Steve Jobs enthusiastically answered that Paul and Clara were his biological parents. Steve Jobs founded Apple in 1976 and was fired from a company he built himself in 1985. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak met in 1971. At that time Wozniak was 21 years old, while Jobs was only 16 years old. Then in 1976, when Steve Jobs was 21 years old, he managed to make the first Apple computer and set up Apple in his garage. Steve Jobs is known as a charismatic Apple director and is very easy to influence others. However, who would have thought in 1985 he was fired from his position as head of the Macintosh division by the Apple Board of Commissioners? 5 months later, he left his own company. Fired from the company itself, if we experience it, it will definitely feel down. But Steve Jobs is not like that. He has his own way to react. In his speech at Stanford University, he even said that being fired from Apple was the best thing in his life. Steve Jobs said, "The weight of the burden when successfully replaced by the light feeling of being a beginner again, does not know much. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life." After leaving Apple, Steve Jobs did not continue to remain silent. He founded Next Computer, a computer platform development company, and is engaged in the higher education and business markets. Steve Jobs tried to market Next products to the financial and academic community by emphasizing new and innovative technology. Then in 1986, Steve Jobs bought the graphics group, which was later renamed Pixar, for $10 million. After years the company suffered losses. Then Pixar worked with Disney to make animated films. And a number of films became very hit and experienced great success. Like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and A Bug's Life. However, it can't be denied that Steve Jobs also felt very devastated when he was expelled from the company he built himself. He even thought to leave Silicon Valley. Steve Jobs said, "It crossed my mind to leave the valley. But there is something that is slowly visible in my mind. I still love what I do. So I decided to start again." Because of that he started everything again. He still loves the work and field he has been in from the start. If he hadn't been fired, maybe he never knew the name of building and establishing Next and Pixar. After a while, the Apple company realized that they still needed a Steve Jobs. In 1997 Steve Jobs was finally asked to return to the Apple company after Apple was bought next. Steve Jobs got a temporary CEO and the company was growing. This has been proven by the creation of various new products such as iPod, iTunes, iTunes Store, iPhone, and iPad tablets. With a market value of $300 billion, Apple is richer than Intel and Microsoft 5. Steve Jobs' extraordinary dedication. One of the most admired things from the figure of Steve Jobs is his extraordinary dedication. Steve Jobs' dream can be realized thanks to his sincerity and enormous belief. Stay hungry. Stay foolish. These 4 short words are often spoken by Steve Jobs. Continue to feel hungry. Don't be easily satisfied. And don't be too pretentious to know everything. Keep learning and learn new things. That way, we can continue to survive and can reach the peak of our dreams. Steve Jobs stopped being Apple's CEO in August 2011. A few months later, he died from cancer after he had 8 years of struggle to recover against his illness. Look forward to the life motivational quotes from Steve Jobs in the next video. Thank you.